Her scream broke the silence of the saloon. It wasn't loud, just sharp enough to cut through the laughter and clinking of glasses. Every man in the room froze mid-drink. Evelyn Grace knelt on the dusty wooden floor. Her wrists were tied. Blood and dirt streaked her pale skin. The torn shirt hanging off her shoulders barely covered her trembling body. Every bruise, every scrape told a story of pain and survival. She looked 19, but her eyes had lived through decades of fear. The Silver Spur Saloon reeked of whiskey, sweat, and hunger. Silas Crowder, the owner, grinned behind his crooked teeth and slammed his hand on the table. $30 to start. She's pure, never been touched, fresh as spring rain. The room erupted with cruel laughter. Coins clattered. Someone shouted 40, another 50. Evelyn tried to pull her shirt together, but the rope bit deeper into her wrists. Her stomach twisted. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. Crowder walked behind her, brushing his fingers along her neck. "Don't look so scared, girl," he whispered. "You'll make some men real happy tonight." The men howled again. To them, it wasn't cruelty. It was entertainment. Evelyn bit her lip until blood ran down her chin. Her eyes darted across the faces, desperate for a kind one. But all she saw were wolves. Then a new voice cut through the noise. Deep, calm, a 75. The room went silent, heads turned toward the door. A tall man stood there, sunburned skin, dust on his boots, eyes like weathered stone. Jonas Whitaker, a rancher from 10 miles out. He'd been alone for years, ever since his wife and son were killed by bandits. He had just sold a herd of cattle. Money he'd planned to fix his roof, maybe start over. Instead, he reached for his wallet. Crowder squinted. 75? You sure, old man? Jonas nodded once. Not at once. Cash money. Laughter rippled again, but no one outbid him. Crowder grabbed the bills and waved his hand. "She's all yours." Jonas stepped forward, slow and steady. He untied her wrists himself. Then he took off his coat and draped it over her shaking shoulders. For a moment, their eyes met. A flicker of something fragile passed between them. Maybe trust. Outside, the wind swept dust down the empty street. Evelyn staggered beside him, half expecting this kindness to vanish. Because in Millfield, Kansas, nothing good ever came without a price. The ride out of town was silent. Evelyn sat behind him, her arms barely touching his back. She stared at the horizon, waiting for the trick, the betrayal that always came. After a few miles, Jonas slowed near a cluster of oak trees. A time to rest. He climbed down, untied the canteen, and handed her a tin cup. Drink? Her throat burned with thirst, but her eyes stayed wary. She took a sip, then suddenly threw the water at him and bolted toward the brush. Jonas didn't chase her. "You run out there. You won't last a mile in this heat." She spun around. "You think I'm stupid? You paid for me. You think I don't know what comes next?" Her voice cracked. Jonas sighed, wiped his face. "I ain't like the men in that saloon, girl. You don't have to run from me." She just stared, shaking. He tossed the canteen toward her feet. "Suit yourself. You'll need that more than I do." Then he turned back toward the horse. She hesitated, then picked it up. Maybe it was thirst. Maybe it was something deeper, but she followed. By the time they reached his ranch, the sun was bleeding into the horizon. The house was small, worn, but clean. Jonas helped her down. "Sit, I'll get you water." He moved around the yard with quiet purpose, a man used to solitude. When he returned, he handed her a clean shirt and a cup. "Put this on," he said softly. "You look like you've been through hell." Evelyn took the shirt and changed behind the barn, peeking to make sure he wasn't watching. When she came back, she whispered, "You paid for me." "Oh, to it." Then he shook his head. "Oh, no, I didn't buy you. I bought your freedom." Her breath caught. For the first time in years, she didn't know what to say. That night, the wind whispered across the plains. Inside the small house, Evelyn ate her first full meal in weeks. Jonas sat across from her, saying little. The silence between them wasn't cruel. It was safe. The next morning came soft and gold. Jonas was already fixing the fence when she stepped outside. "You keep working," he said. "You'll earn that breakfast." She smiled, small, hesitant, but it was real. By afternoon, the heat shimmered over the land. Cicadas screamed from the trees. Jonas filled the water trough while Evelyn gathered wood. For a few hours, it felt almost normal. But peace doesn't last long in the West. Back in town, Clayton Boone sat in the saloon, red-faced and furious. He'd been the one bidding before Jonas outbid him. "That old fool took what's mine," he growled. By sunset, 3 men rode toward Whitaker's ranch. Jonas felt it before he saw it. The shift in the wind, the stillness that came before trouble. He loaded his rifle and stepped onto the porch. Evelyn was washing dishes inside, humming softly. When she saw his face change, her heart sank. "What is it?" "A rider's," he said. "Stay inside. Lock the door. Don't open it unless it's me." 3 shadows appeared through the dusk. Clayton Boone dismounted first, smirk cutting through his scruffy beard. "But evening, old man. You got something that belongs to me." Jonas kept his voice steady. "I don't reckon I do." Clayton's grin tightened. "You think buying her makes you a hero? She's mine. Hand her over before someone gets hurt." Inside, Evelyn pressed against the wall, trembling. Jonas lifted the rifle. "She ain't yours. She ain't mine either. She's her own person. Turn back before you make a mistake." Clayton sneered. "That girl looked me in the eye when they called my name. She owes me." Jonas shook his head. "She don't owe you a damn thing." The silence cracked like thunder. One of Clayton's men reached for his gun. Jonas fired first. The man's shoulder exploded red, and he dropped with a cry. Clayton cursed and fired back. Jonas dove behind the water trough, wood splintering around him. Evelyn screamed. "Stay down." Jonas shouted, reloading. Clayton's other man panicked and bolted. Jonas fired again. The bullet grazed Clayton's sleeve. "You can't shoot your way out of this," Clayton yelled. "Maybe not," Jonas said, "but I can sure try." Then Evelyn stepped onto the porch, hands shaking. Jonas's revolver in her grip. "Leave us alone," she said, voice trembling but strong. "You had your chance." Clayton froze. For once he saw something in her eyes that made him hesitate. Not fear, but defiance. He spat. "This ain't over." Then he turned his horse and rode into the setting sun. Jonas lowered his rifle, heart still pounding. The man he'd shot groaned on the ground, bleeding but alive. Jonas hauled him up and pushed him toward his horse. "He'll come back, won't he?" she whispered. Jonas glanced at the road glowing orange under the dying sun. "Yeah," he said quietly. "He'll come back. The question is when." Night settled over the plains. The smell of gunpowder lingered. Jonas fixed the broken fence while Evelyn gathered the empty shells. Neither spoke. Silence was the only way they could breathe again. Later, under the stars, Evelyn brought him a cup of coffee. He nodded. "You did good out there." She stared at the dirt. "Was scared." He smiled faintly. "Only fools ain't." Then added, "Fear means you're still alive." She sat beside him. The night air was cool, carrying the scent of pine. For the first time, she didn't feel like a victim. She felt strong. After a while, she asked, "You could have let me go that first night."